For every T-34 tank destroyed, up to 2 Soviet crewmen died, nearly double the fatality rate of infantry units. The T-34's revolutionary sloped armor and 76mm gun should have crushed the enemy, but a single design flaw trapped commanders in an impossible job and turned technical promise into a death spiral. Why did a weapon built for victory kill its own crews so efficiently? The shocking answer begins with the paradox at the heart of Soviet tank warfare. In the summer of 1941, German Panzer crews advancing into the Soviet Union met a machine unlike anything they had faced before. The T-34 rolled onto the battlefield with sloped armor angled at 60 degrees, a design that multiplied its effective thickness without adding weight. German anti-tank shells, which had easily pierced French and British armor the year before, now bounced harmlessly off the T-34's front. Reports from the front lines described a sense of disbelief. Standard 37mm and even 50mm German guns could not penetrate the T-34 from a head-on shot at normal combat ranges. The T-34's 76.2mm main gun was another shock. It outgunned every German tank in service, able to destroy Panzer IIIs and Panzer IVs before they could even get close. Soviet engineers had also given the T-34 AV2 diesel engine, producing nearly 500 horsepower. This engine not only reduced the risk of fire compared to gasoline, it also gave the tank a top speed of 33 miles per hour and a much greater operational range. Wide tracks allowed the T-34 to cross deep mud and snow that trapped German vehicles, keeping Soviet armored columns moving when others bogged down. German officers wrote home about the T-34's uncanny ability to shrug off hits and traverse terrain their own tanks could not. In technical terms, the T-34 set a new standard: sloped armor for protection, a powerful gun for offense, diesel power for endurance, and wide tracks for mobility. On paper, it was the most advanced tank in the world. But this promise carried a hidden cost, one that would soon turn technical triumph into tragedy for the men inside. Inside the T-34's turret, the promise of Soviet engineering collided with the limits of human endurance. The commander faced a relentless cycle: spot the enemy, load the shell, aim the gun, fire, and somehow keep track of the battlefield, all at once. German Panzer crews, by contrast, relied on a 3-man system. Their commander directed the fight, the gunner tracked and fired, and the loader kept shells flowing. This division of labor meant that for every shot a T-34 managed, a German Panzer could fire 3. Engagement reports from the front confirm this 3-to-1 firing disparity, not because of technology, but because the T-34's commander was stretched past breaking point. The cramped space made matters worse. With barely enough room to move, the commander's field of vision shrank to narrow slits and periscopes. He often missed threats until it was too late. A Soviet commander later wrote that he loaded, he aimed, he ordered, his eyes burned, his hands shook, and he could not see what was happening beyond the gun. The result was tragic predictability. German tanks would acquire, fire, and reload, while the T-34's commander juggled every task alone. Opportunities vanished in the seconds it took to switch from loading to aiming. The technical edge of the T-34 faded with each battle, as the burden placed on a single man turned advantage into vulnerability. The fight inside the turret became a bottleneck. It set the stage for the even harsher realities waiting on the assembly line. In the tank factories behind the Urals, speed was the only commandment. Workers raced to meet quotas set by Moscow, sometimes welding armor plates in freezing air that left seams brittle and uneven. A memo from a foreman at Uralvagonzavod in late 1942 warned that rushed welds were leaving gaps wide enough to slip a knife through. In some production runs, Rivets replaced welds altogether, not because they were safer, but because they were faster. When a shell struck these riveted plates, the force could shear the rivets and send metal fragments, spall, ricocheting through the crew compartment. Tanks could look intact from the outside, yet inside, crews were shredded by their own armor. The risks did not end there. Soviet optics lagged far behind their German counterparts. While Panzer gunners peered through precision Zeiss periscopes, T-34 crews relied on crude vision blocks and basic sights. In darkness or smoke, the world outside shrank to a blur. A single misaligned weld or a fogged-up periscope could turn a state-of-the-art tank into a steel coffin. Every shortcut taken on the assembly line, every rushed weld, every swapped rivet, every subpar lens became a hidden danger waiting to claim a crew. The T-34's reputation for strength masked these vulnerabilities, but for those inside, the cost of mass production was paid in blood long before the first shot was fired. July 1943. Across the fields near Kursk, more than 6,000 tanks and self-propelled guns gathered for the largest armored clash in history. The roar of engines and the thunder of guns drowned out everything else. Soviet tank brigades advanced in waves, their T-34s surging forward into prepared German lines. In just a few days, Soviet records logged the loss of 1,614 tanks, each one a steel shell left smoldering on the steppe. German gunners, working with practiced precision, achieved a kill ratio of 3.5 to 1. For every German tank destroyed, 3 or 4 Soviet machines were lost. The numbers on paper translated into something far more personal for the families left behind. In a small village outside Kursk, a mother received news that her 2 sons, both assigned to the same tank regiment, would not be coming home. Their names joined hundreds of others carved into a local memorial, a stone marker standing alone in the grass, surrounded by wildflowers and silence. Yet even as Soviet losses mounted, the German offensive ground to a halt. The Red Army absorbed the blow and kept fighting, forcing the Wehrmacht to retreat. The cost was staggering. Thousands of crews killed, wounded, or missing in a single month. The battlefield at Kursk laid bare the reality of Soviet strategy. That victory would not come from tactical brilliance or crew survival, but from the sheer ability to endure loss and replace what was destroyed. In 1943, Soviet tank factories delivered a volume of armor the world had never seen. That year alone, 26,742 tanks rolled off Soviet assembly lines, more than double Germany's output of 11,601. The ratio was clear. For every German tank produced, the Soviets built more than 2. This 2.3 to 1 production edge was not a temporary surge. By war's end, total T-34 production, counting all variants, reached an estimated 84,000 units. The numbers told a story of scale as much as strategy. Soviet factories, clustered beyond the Ural Mountains, operated far from German bombers and sabotage. While German industry struggled under air raids and material shortages, Soviet plants ran day and night, insulated by geography and fueled by relentless quotas. The Red Army could lose tanks by the hundreds and still field fresh battalions. This industrial advantage was not just a backdrop. It was the engine that absorbed catastrophic losses and drove the war's momentum eastward, no matter the cost in men or machines. Tank school in wartime Russia was a conveyor belt. New recruits arrived, learned to drive, load, and fire in just a few weeks, then shipped out before they could master the basics. Manuals described tactics for flanking and cover, but most crews never had time to practice them under fire. The death spiral took hold. Every time a veteran commander was lost, a green replacement stepped in, less prepared than the man before. The average experience level on the front dropped with every month of combat. Orders from Moscow made it clear, units had to be kept at strength, no matter how raw the crews. One letter home written by a 19-year-old recruit captured the reality. He wrote, "They say our tank is strong. I hope I see my next birthday inside it." For most, that hope was short-lived. The cycle was relentless. Crews with weeks of training faced German veterans, and the results were predictable. Losses mounted, and each new crew was less likely to survive their first battle. Commanders understood the arithmetic. The introduction of the T-34-85's three-man turret in 1944 brought some relief, but for thousands it arrived too late. The system accepted the loss of 1.5 to 1.7 crewmen per tank as the price of progress, reducing human lives to a grim calculation. Each number in the records was a person, and each replacement was another roll of the dice. Today, military doctrine still weighs human lives against industrial might. The T-34's legacy is a chilling reminder. Victory can be engineered, but at a price counted in generations. When numbers become strategy, the human cost never disappears. It only waits for the next calculation. Share your thoughts below.